Hello BookTube, hello Tudorverse. Today's video is more for the Tudor fans than the BookTubers. The name of this channel is Too Much Tudor, and there simply has not been enough Tudor, so I need to balance the scales a little bit. I do intend to be true to the BookTube side by focusing on narrative arc in what I talk about. I'm still going to let the dates inspire the stories, the same way I do on my blog. I've done on this day posts at the rate of about once a week for the past 10 years, and I've neglected it a bit lately because I've basically done all the days, a lot of them twice, some 3 times. This is going to be a new take, focused on fun rather than footnotes, though I invite you to go to my blog and I will link to the original posts if you want the details. To illustrate my plan, let you be the judge. The first Tudor tidbit involves Friar William Peto. I chose him because March 31st is the day on which he preached a wild Easter sermon. The year was 1532. Henry VIII had left his wife Catherine of Aragon and was still trying to get the Pope to agree to an annulment so that he could marry Anne Boleyn. Henry was starting to gather men around him who would eventually push him to break with Rome. But at this point, the Church of England was, not the Church of England, was still the Catholic Church, and it was still pretty conservative. It hadn't happened yet. Somehow, a Franciscan monk, William Peto, was chosen to preach the Easter sermon for the court. A very brave soul, very Catholic soul. And he told Henry that he needed to turn from Jezebel Anne Boleyn and return to his faithful wife, or he would be as Ahab, and the dogs would lick his blood. Henry did not react well to that, and Peto was quickly arrested. Prophesizing the death of the king was treason, but Peto had not quite prophesized. The if saved his life. Now, 5 years later, once Henry had turned truly bloodthirsty, Peto would have been dead. But this was still early, and he had a chance. He was released after about a year, fled to the continent instead of staying to protest when Henry did in fact break with Rome and marry Anne Boleyn. This was the kind of thing that once that happened, people did forget about the whole thing. Even the Tudor era had its news cycles. But then Henry died in 1547, and his plans were to be buried at Windsor next to his favorite wife, Jane Seymour, so there was a large funeral procession to get his body there. It took 2 days over not great roads, and the coffin was jolted a bunch, which is a big deal when it has to carry a body weighing about 500 pounds. They stopped at Sion Abbey for the night, placed the coffin in the chapel where it began to leak. The next morning, the attendants returned to find a dog with red eyes lapping up the blood. That's the legend. I'm going to add a little vindictive twist. Sion Abbey is where Henry's 5th wife, Catherine Howard, was held before she was taken to the Tower to be beheaded for adultery. Catherine's execution took place almost exactly 5 years before this blood-lapping incident. So, what do you think? I hope you enjoyed this balancing of the scales and agree that this was not at all too much Tudor, as if there ever could be. Thanks again.